Hi everyone, welcome to another ChatLoopBackOff. I'm Iris Durmishi. I'm going to be your host today. I'm a CNCF ambassador and a senior observability engineer at Miro. And today I'm joined by Arsh, who's going to be talking about Strimzi and Kafka. And just before I disappear and leave the stage to Arsh, I just want to say that this is an official CNCF live. So please be respectful in the chat. I'll be monitoring, so ask your questions and we're going to answer them in the end. And before I go, let us know where you're watching from in the chat. To you, Arsh.
Thanks for the intro, Iris. Hi, everyone. I'm Arsh. I am a CNCF ambassador as well. I work as a senior DevRel engineer at Metalbear, and we are a company which is behind the tool Mirrord, which is like an development tool which lets you connect to Kubernetes clusters and proxy your traffic to make development a little bit easier for everyone. So this is my first time on ChatLoopBackOff, and I'm really excited and I love this format. And Iris and I were talking about how I think that this is like a really great initiative by the CNCF because it encourages like people just learning in public and trying out new things and being as clueless as you were probably when you were getting started. So it just sort of reinforces this idea that nobody's sort of like an expert in all things. And for example, today we are going to be learning about Strimzi, and I have never worked with Kafka before, and Strimzi is a way to run Kafka on Kubernetes. So let's see how I do, or let's explore the project together. So I'll share my screen now. And I am already on the Strimzi docs page, and it allows you to run Kafka in a few minutes. So I have some idea about Kafka. I've never used it in production or run it myself before, but I just wanted to be on like the same page about it. So in case you also don't know about it, maybe I can help you be on have the same level of understanding as I do. So Kafka is like a messaging solution, and it has like a publisher subscriber model where there's something called a Kafka topic, and one publisher will send events or messages to the topic, and then you can have a subscriber consume those events, and it basically allows communication between services. And this is really useful in like a distributed microservice architecture where you have different services, and maybe you need like a queue based mechanism to make sure that your messages or data does not get dropped off when it's going from one place to the other, so you can have it go via Kafka. That's my very general, very broad understanding of what Kafka is. And judging by Strimzi and the fact that it exists, I'm assuming running Kafka on Kubernetes isn't straightforward on its own. My first assumption would be you would just run it as a pod, but I'm assuming there are things which would go wrong when you go with that approach. So Strimzi must be making that a little bit easier. So let's go through the docs and see what the project has to offer. So it gives various deployment configurations, and we'll use the quick start in a bit. We'll go through that. But I wanted to read more about the project and see what it does. So it says it has a bunch of security features built in. It takes care of certificate management for you, so that's nice. I know a lot of tools do this. So I am recently like building a course on Kyverno, which is a policy agent, which is also a CNCF project. And as part of that, I was reading about certificate management and Kyverno, and Kyverno allows you to bring your own custom certificates, use Cert Manager, and all of that stuff. But I like this in Kyverno. I like the Strimzi also supports it. That when the tool automatically manages certificates for you out of the box. So I think that's pretty cool. Simple yet configurable, just like how all dev tools should be. So we have different options to access this. That's cool. There's high availability, use dedicated nodes for Kafka. Okay. I'm not sure what the use case here is, like why you would want a dedicated node for Kafka, but it's cool that the project supports high availability and different options when it comes to services. kubectl to manage Kafka. Okay, I think that could be a huge plus for a lot of people. Operator based manage Kafka using GitOps. So feels like it's a more like native way, and it's in touch with like other projects and methodologies or practices, best practices in the Kubernetes landscape. So that's why I guess you would want to prefer using Strimzi. About the releases, another what is Strimzi para. Okay, so they're saying like when you're developing Kafka applications, you can also use Strimzi to set it up locally in a Minikube cluster. So I would probably go with this approach since I don't have a cluster in a cloud environment ready for production. Yep. So far, my understanding is that it's just a more Kubernetes native way of running Kafka, and it makes certain things simpler for you. So you see that a lot of companies they have a lot of names. Red Hat being one of the bigger ones, which use Strimzi. I know randomly I have a friend working there. Reddit. Cool. Okay. Let's see what they have in the documentation. Overview, I guess. Or do yeah. So okay, nice that they have like a benefit section for Kafka and Kafka use cases, which is useful for people like me who don't know exactly what Kafka could be super useful for. Yeah, but it's kind of in line with what I was saying earlier. Like, it just makes data sharing easy for microservices and event-driven architecture. Logs is a use case which I was not familiar with, but I can see how that can be made easier with like something like Kafka, where you have like publishers and subscribers. So let's see how Strimzi supports Kafka, right? I want to understand, like, I'm looking to understand I'm assuming Kafka has like a container image, like an image on Docker Hub. So I want to understand, like, yeah, see, there's an image for Kafka on Docker Hub. So I'm trying to understand why someone would want to use Strimzi over just running it in a container. Or I'm assuming there's a Helm chart as well. So it provides container images and operators are designed with special operational knowledge to manage efficiently. Okay, I would love some more details on what this specialized operational knowledge is. So deploying and running Kafka clusters, okay. Managing access, securing, upgrading. Yeah, I mean, this section is not super informative. Yeah, I get that it does all of these things, but what I'm again looking to understand is why Strimzi. I don't know if they have a section on that, like why Strimzi. Yeah, I don't see something. Quick start, deploying, managing. I do feel like since I work as a DevRel and I've worked with like marketing for a lot of dev tool companies, I feel like for a dev tool, it's really important to have a page which explains the why of the project and the pain point the project solves. But we can like obviously, I work at a company and I've worked at companies, and this is like an open source project, so I can totally understand like, you know, people just not having the time, expertise, or sometimes, yeah, this project not having a web page, totally understandable. I don't see open source projects usually having that anyways, but would be cool to have for sure. So Streamlit defines some custom resources. The following operators manage Kafka and okay, so this section gives me some idea. I'm assuming you don't get things like a drain cleaner when you just run the Kafka pods or the Helm chart. and it tells that you would obviously not get these operators if you're running just the Kafka image. So you have some operators which would automatically manage your clusters or topics. So that can be cool. Operators within Strimzi architecture. So there's a user operator for managing users. Topics for Kafka topics, clusters. There should be another one, right? Entity operator. Okay, so the entity operator comprises of the topic and the user operator. Yeah, that's what it says. My bad. Cool. So I'm assuming this is like a cluster, and then you have the entity operator, and then the entity operator manages a Kafka cluster for you. Shouldn't the cluster operator be doing that? So it says like cluster operator manages Kafka clusters. Okay, yeah, that was right. So there's a cluster operator, and this whole thing is a Kafka cluster, and then there are nodes, and the entity operator is managing those topics on the node on the Kafka cluster and the users. That makes sense. So cluster operator to deploy and manage clusters. By default, when you deploy, yeah, this is also pretty standard. I can relate this to Kyverno, where if you just install it using like the Hemchat, by default, it would only have like one replica for each of its controllers or operators. But if you're trying to go for a high availability installation, it gives you the option to specify multiple replicas. This has leader election, so that's nice. It's the same, like it supports high availability basically. Leader election, for those of you who don't know, means that whenever you have multiple replicas, it's not that they would process a request parallelly, but instead between them they choose like a sort of leader, and then that leader handles the request. So you still have high availability, because if you just had one replica, it would be the default leader, and if it goes down, it would not work. So in case that replica goes down, they would, like, if you have multiple, so they would pick a different leader, and that would do handle your request. So it needs leader election, and it would not be processing your request parallelly, and the additional cluster operators are on standby here, which I'm assuming is because of the way Kafka works. Like, so clusters are deployed using custom resources. Okay, so there's a custom resource called Kafka, and when you create that, the cluster operator will read from that custom resources YAML and deploy a Kafka cluster for you. The cluster operator can also deploy the following Strimzi operators. Okay, so when you create that Kafka resource, which would create your Kafka cluster, it would also create the topic and the user operator, which we read about earlier. And these themselves have these two custom resources which they act upon. Okay. So cluster operator creates and deploys Kafka clusters in nodes, and you give it like a Kafka resource. Okay, so far so good. The topic operator provides a way for managing topics through, yep. So the cluster operator can deploy a topic operator as part of the entity operator configuration. That's a really complicated sentence. Okay, so when you deploy the cluster operator, it can also create the entity operator, which basically controls the user and the topic operator. And whenever you create the Kafka resource, basically you can create everything. Or the other way is that if you don't want to create the Kafka cluster using the cluster operator and you already have a existing Kafka cluster inside your Kubernetes cluster, you can just use the entity operator or the you can just use the entity operator, which comprises of the topic and user operators, to manage that cluster. Basically, a cluster which has not been created by Strimzi. Okay, so if you have a so the cluster operator allowed you to specify a Kafka resource which would create a cluster. But when you are creating your application's deployment, you can specify a Kafka topic, and then the topic operator will create that Kafka topic for you. Makes sense. Yeah, so this was also pretty similar to the topic operator, wherein you can create a Kafka user resource and then the user operator will manage that for you. And when you are creating your application's deployment, you can just declare the Kafka user, and then the operator will create that user and store its credentials in a Kubernetes secret. And then your application, when it wants to use that user to access the topic's message, like to maybe send a message to the topic or consume a message from the topic, then it needs to use that secret and the credentials stored in that secret to be able to do that. I'm hoping when we go through the quick start guide, one of these things we'll see it in action. So if you're using the cluster operator to manage your Kafka cluster, you can deploy train cleaner to streamline the process of moving. Okay, so basically, if you have a Kubernetes node that is scheduled for maintenance, then you can move all the Kafka pods from that using the drain cleaner. Okay, so this is just for, yep, I guess when you're like upgrading or doing something else. Yep. So there are feature gates just like in Kubernetes. So they have like some features which are in alpha stage and all the, or some are generally available. So you can use feature gates to enable some of the more experimental features, I guess. All right. So I think we have had like enough reading and understanding about Strimzi, and I kind of want to go through the quick start guide and maybe see it in action. I do see they have like a YouTube video, but it's 4 minutes and I don't want to start a YouTube video on a stream. So let's go through the quick start guide, and you can all check out the video later on the website, I guess. Minikube, Kind, Docker Desktop. I wonder why Minikube and Kind have different installation pages, since both just run Kubernetes locally. So it should be pretty same. I will not be using either because I use K3D, which runs like clusters running. Sorry, my bad. Which runs clusters which use K3S, which is like a lightweight Kubernetes distribution. So I'm hoping I would not get any problems, but if I do, we'll switch back to Minikind, right? So let me create a cluster just for this. and I'll call it Strimzi Playground. This should be pretty quick, but yeah. Okay, all of this is done. The 2 GB default memory isn't always enough. I have no idea how much memory K3D allocates, but if we run into issues, we will cross that bridge once we get there. So we need to create a new namespace. Okay, done. Apply the streams install files, including CRDs and all of that. Okay. That was quick. The YAML for downloaded from Strimzi contain the default namespace of my project. The query parameter updates these files to use Kafka instead by okay. By specifying this when running kubectl, you get definition configurations without a namespace reference. Okay, so basically, yeah, they're just telling since we installed everything should be there in that namespace. So I'm using short form. So if I do something like KGNS, that's kubectl get namespaces. So we see the Kafka namespace, and maybe we can get like all the things, let's say, in that namespace. Let's see what's there. So we have one. Basically, we have one deployment, which is running. Okay. So did it just wait? Like if I get the pods, if I just get everything, so I see that the cluster operator is here, but I don't see the other things, like the other operators they told us about. I guess we don't. Okay, let's just go ahead and see what happens. Follow the deployment. I mean, I guess we have already. It's deployed for us, so there's nothing for us to do here. My bad. You can also. Let's just see what we have in the logs here. Let me increase the font size in case you all can't see. Yep, benefits of a widescreen. Informers are in sync. I don't see any error messages here, so I am assuming everything is good. Cool. So now we can create an Apache Kafka cluster, and the way to do that was, from what I remember here, is you create a resource of the kind Kafka. So so they have like a file here, but I want to see what that looks like. We don't want to just apply it. So we have this Kafka file, okay, where you give it the name my cluster. What is this? Yeah, my Google Translate extension is acting weird. But yeah, so you have Kafka resource of the type Kafka with some annotations with a spec where you tell it what version, okay. Then you have some listeners, which I don't know what they are. Okay, I guess this is for communication. So what ports you want to listen on, like for your Kafka cluster, like when you send it topics or try to try to consume messages from it. That's what I'm assuming right now. So if you on this port we have TLS enabled and on this we don't, then we have some configuration replication. No idea what any of this means. Then we have an entity operator where we specify the topic and user, but both of them are blank. And then we have a Kafka node pool, which is something we did not read about in the previous section. So let me zoom in and zoom out and search. It's not there on the docs page. Okay, let us live in mystery, but see dual role labels, controller, broker. Okay, so far I have no idea what this is, but I can understand that we are going to create a Kafka cluster by running this command. So let's just see. It's also interesting that we are creating. Oh no, that was the wrong command. Yeah, that's. It's also interesting that we're creating this in the same namespace because I thought that namespace would just be for Strimzi, but I guess you create the Kafka cluster in the same namespace where you install Strimzi. So, nope, should have made that annotation as well. But let's get everything here. So we have the same deployment, but we have a new service. Both of these services are new. We did not have them last time, and we have a pod, which is in pending status. And okay, wait while Kubernetes starts the required pods and services and so on. I didn't think we need to do that. Like we can just see if everything is running. Still in container creating state. Let's read what we're going to do next. Send and receive messages. Okay, so I'm assuming after this everything is ready and we can now send messages to our topic and receive. Run a simple producer to send messages to the Kafka topic. The topic is automatically created. Okay, so we have created the cluster right now, and then I guess the topic is automatically created when a producer sends messages, and this command is running a producer which will send messages. So run producer. Then they're using some image which they have created for the demo, I guess. And it has a file which does, I guess, talk to the Bootstrap server. Yeah, so here we are specifying the name of the service, which is my Kafka cluster Bootstrap. And I guess this script has some code which producer code which is sending messages to the Kafka topic. Okay, so yeah, here that's what I was wondering. Like, what's the name of the topic? So you specify it here, and if it does not exist, I guess it automatically creates it. Cool. Let's see if everything is ready now. Yeah, you can see everything is running successfully. So when we run this command, we should have a producer which sends messages to a topic which does not exist right now, but should get created automatically. So let's see. Let's press enter. Yep, okay. Warning, metadata responses from the cluster reported a recoverable issue with correlation. Unknown topic, yeah. So I guess it did not, yeah. Because the topic did not exist at first, I guess. So you can now send messages. Let's say hello from ChatLoopBackOff. I am hoping I got the name right. Okay, so we have sent this message. Now this message should have gone to our topic on the Kafka cluster. And now you can receive them in a different terminal by running this command. And let's create another terminal window. This command, like the previous one, I guess they're using the Kafka image. And the script they're running is a different script. It's consumer.sh, which is I wanted to see that script. I wish they would have it in the docs as someone who does not know about Kafka. I guess we can still like go into the pod and read the script, but let's skip that for now. Bootstrap server, I don't know what that flag is doing. Then we are again specifying a cluster and then the name of the topic, and then from beginning means, I guess, see all the messages. Press enter. Oh, that's cool. We can see our message. So if we send another message saying, did I get it right? No, STRIM said Strimzi is pretty cool. Yeah, we see our messages. That's cool. The experience was pretty flawless. Like brownie points for the quick start guide working. Like a lot of the times the quick start guide with dev tools or projects sometimes just does not work. So pretty cool that we have had like a smooth experience so far and things have been going well. Deleting your cluster. When you're finished, you can delete it by running. Okay. Okay. Yep. So they just have like more information on deleting things, which we're not going to since our cluster is temporary anyways. So yeah, I think that was a successful run of the quick start of the project. I'm just curious why they have, and we were not using Minikube, so I'm just curious why they have like separate sections for Minikube and kind, because the instructions are the same, right? Yeah. I guess the way to define more memory, but they don't do that here, so. And then there's a Docker desktop variation as well. All of the examples are like, yeah, I think they could just have one example. Not sure. So we still have some time. So first, let me check if there are any questions in chat. This might open a repeating window. How can I install? And I see one question. How can I install another version of Strimzi? Okay. My first, just based on what I've learned so far, my first impression would be that you just uninstall your previous version. Like you. So what I can guess is that like the Apache Kafka cluster which Strimzi creates and the Strimzi cluster operator itself are two different things. So if you delete your operator and then install the latest version, that should have no impact, at least on your existing running workloads. But again, I am not an I'm not even like a novice when it comes to Kafka or Strimzi, so don't take my word for it. For sure, read the docs. Let's try to figure it out in the docs. Deploying, managing, maybe in managing. Should have a guide on upgrading. In develop, okay, no, not in development. Yeah, if it's anywhere, if the answer to your question is anywhere, then it should be in the deploying and managing section. And by the way, like if you still are, like if this question is still not answered because there's a lot of docs and I don't think we can go through this here, you should definitely just create, and I guess like you see the documentation page is also on GitHub. So it might just be a good idea to create an issue here and maybe have request like if you can't find that page, like have a request for adding that page or a section on that just to improve the project. And I see that it's under active development. Like, of course, it's a CNCF project, so it's under active development. But like, I see just from the looking at the comments, like maintainers are replying actively, so you should get a response. They might have a community as well. No, there's Twitter and YouTube. Join us. I don't know what that means. Yeah, there's a Strimzi Slack CNCF channel, which probably is the best location for you to ask your question regarding upgrades. But let's try to find it out here as well. Upgrade. Oh, there's a section on upgrading Strimzi, so I'm not sure if I can reply in chat from here. Can I change this to maybe? I don't know. I don't know if you see this message or not, but I added the docs page. So you should be able to go to the section and see. But let's go through it together and see if we can find an answer to your question. Download the latest files. Okay. Yeah, use the same method to upgrade the cluster operator as the initial method of your deployment. For example, if you use Strimzi installation files, modify those after you have upgraded. The next step is to upgrade all the Kafka nodes. Makes sense. So after you upgrade the operator, you also need to upgrade all your existing Kafka nodes to the latest version. Kafka upgrades are performed by cluster operator through rolling updates. Okay, so I guess Strimzi would do that for you automatically. So that's cool. Downgrade, upgrade without downtime. Yeah, they have like, if you set up high availability, so you can upgrade without having any downtime. So that's nice. So do they have like multiple ways of installing? Because we only saw that, just applying that YAML command, and they mentioned that your upgrading method would depend on how you install it. So is there like a different ways of installation, like a Helm chart or something? There should be a Helm chart for sure. Yeah, installation files, deploying the cluster operator. Okay. Still don't see an option to use Helm. Yeah. So this is probably your best bet, I'm assuming. I'm hoping you installed it using Helm as well. And if you did, then upgrading via Helm should be pretty simple and like you would do for any other tool you are using. So I guess we should take a look at that. I think like we covered the intro and a bit about Strimzi. And I can see the project being pretty cool and useful for people who have applications which use Kafka, and Strimzi simplifying the operations of managing Kafka in the cluster in Kubernetes for you instead of you doing those things manually. I would have liked the getting started guide giving us some more examples or pointers on that Strimzi is doing this for you automatically, whereas you would have to do this manually. But then again, I think that's just because I myself am not familiar with the pain points of running Kafka manually on Kubernetes. So let's end the stream. Obviously, like we'll have time for Q&A, so I'm gonna start watching for questions. But check the project out. It's at strimzi.io. If you find it useful, go to GitHub, give them a star, follow them on Twitter, check out the YouTube channel. There's also an intro video, which would probably dive much more deeper into the use case. They have like a 50-second intro also. That's pretty cool, like a elevator pitch on what Strimzi is. They have community meetings from what I can see, and they upload it pretty regularly to YouTube as well. So that's cool. Yeah, check out Strimzi, and if you have any other questions, if I can help with anything, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Arsh Sharma is my name, just search for that. Or you can see my Twitter handle in the video on this stream. It's @rinkyakidad. But yeah, I think I can stop sharing screen and we can just have this, have a Q&A if people have questions now.
I'm back. Thank you so much for the presentation, Arsh. It was great.
Yeah.
So we have a few more minutes for questions. So please add them to the chat, and Arsh is going to answer to the best of his capabilities. So how did you find exploring a brand new CNCF project?
Pretty cool. Like I think I said this during the stream as well. Like, so I have a lot of experience in writing documentation specifically for developer tools, and I have gone through the documentation of a lot of developer tools, and it's like a 70-30 30 rate of whether their getting started guide is up to date and it would work or not. And I was pretty impressed that it did work, and like everything was flawless. Like at least I was able to get everything up and running. I ran the same commands and things worked as they were expected to. So that was cool. Some areas where this is like coming from my experience as being like a marketer for developer tools, like I had a little trouble in understanding the value the project provides. Like I get the sense, but I guess the project could convey what are the actual pain points of running Kafka manually without using a solution like Strimzi. But I'm sure people who work with Kafka like on a more daily basis already know those pain points. So I might not be the target audience for this project, but I love to hear if people in the chat use Kafka and they've faced pain points running Kafka. Let us know like in the chat so that I can learn from you all as well, like what you struggle with when trying to run Kafka on Kubernetes.
Yeah, and it's also a great opportunity if somebody feels the same as you about the value that the project brings, that you want to have it there. It's a great chance to contribute it to the project. What's better than having some documentation there? So if anyone here is thinking exactly the same, why not create that first PR and update the docs? There's always room for improvement everywhere. And let's wait just a little bit more if somebody has questions here. But of course, you know how to reach Arsh right now. If you'd like to share your LinkedIn in the chat,
Definitely.
I could share it together with any other resources, of course.
I'll just share my link, which has like a link to all my socials. So if you want to go to LinkedIn, read some blogs I've written, GitHub, Twitter, everything should be here. Thank you for hosting this, Iris. And it was my first time. I felt really comfortable with the setup, and it was great chatting with you earlier. Thank you for the people who showed up. So I hope you found this useful. I see there's one more question. Does Strimzi have any schema registry operator? I do not know what a schema registry operator is. Do you have any idea, Iris?
No, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the project either, so I know as
Yeah.
much as you do from what you shared.
No, but like I think schema registry operator they mean like is like a general term. I'm just googling. From valid provides a centralized repository for managing and validating schemas used in data processing. Okay, so funny thing, when I just googled schema, actually, can you bring up my screen? This is really funny. So when I just Google like schema registry operator, like the second link is a Strimzi registry operator. So I'm assuming it's something people ask for a lot. And this is a Kubernetes operator for running schema registry in a Strimzi based Kafka solution. So this might be what they are looking for. I'll add the link in the chat. Check it out, Vishal. Let us know if this was what you were looking for. But that was the best we could do to answer without a lot of.
But you did share a few good resources earlier, right? That they can reach to the community or go to the community
Definitely.
meetings, CNCF, Slack, absolutely.
Exactly. So they have a GitHub section also. So tutorials, and they say that you can find them on Slack, join their mailing list, GitHub discussions. Okay, so I guess they have like a section which is, yeah, this would probably be the best bet. Like I was not familiar with this, but if you go to the project's GitHub discussion section, like I can see, active discussions and Q&A and ideas and all of that stuff. So this should help clear any doubts you have.
Yes, I'm sharing all of this with the audience.
Thank you so much.
Mention for you here, I'm going to put it on the screen.
Yeah, Shiva is a friend. Nice to see him come in. Yeah, I was actually seeing his recording. He did one on, I think, Cubescape, this ChatLoopBackOff. So I'm a procrastinator. I was just going through all of the recordings today, realizing that I have to be on stream. So I saw his, and yeah, it helped me understand the format a bit better.
Well, just last chance to ask your last questions before we have to end the stream.
I guess we can bring down the screen share.
The screen, absolutely. So just a few more seconds, and then we can call it a day.
Yeah.
And of course, if there are any questions after you're watching this, not live, but because it's going to be on YouTube, you can always reach out to Arsh. We have already shared his website where you can find all the contact information about him. I think this is it. There are no more questions. Thank you so much, Arsh. This was great. And thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you for being an excellent host, Iris. And thank you for joining, everyone. I'll see you somewhere in the CNCF world on some other webinar. Bye.